learn the structure and the function of stomach. So stomach is a thick walled muscular bag. It is the widest part. It is the widest part of the alimentary canal. It is the widest part of the alimentary canal. And it looks like a alphabet J. Flattened J shape. So the shape resembles the alphabet J, flattened J shape. Now let us see the functions of the stomach, right? So the stomach, the inner lining of the stomach, secretes or produces mucus. The inner lining of the stomach produces mucus and digestive juices and hydrochloric acid. Just imagine, we are carrying hydrochloric acid. In our stomach, we have this hydrochloric acid. Okay, so these three substances are secreted by the inner lining of the stomach. There is mucus, digestive juices and hydrochloric acid. So let us see the functions of these things. Okay, mucus. The mucus will protect the inner lining of the stomach. What it should protect? Because the stomach secretes hydrochloric acid. It has hydrochloric acid. Acids are corrosive. Okay, it will harm the living cells or the tissue. So the mucus gives protection against the hydrochloric acid. So that's the function of mucus. So what is the function of hydrochloric acid? Why we have hydrochloric acid? Hydrochloric acid will destroy the germs. Destroys the germs that enters our body along with the food. If the germs is present and it has entered into our system inside our body through the food, it will destroy those germs. That's why hydrochloric acid is present. Destroy the germ that enters into our body through the food. So what is the function of this digestive juices? As I told you, digestive juices, otherwise it is called enzymes. Okay, so digestive juices will help in digestion of proteins. So proteins are digested partially. It is partially digested by the juices that is secreted in the stomach. Now the food enters the first part of it. It enters the small intestine. So this is our stomach, right? And the food enters the small intestine. So let us see what happens in the small intestine. Okay, the first part of the intestine. After the food is properly mixed with all the juices, then it will be sent to the first part of the small intestine. And here you know that the small intestine, we find one reddish brown organ or a gland. We find a reddish brown structure on the gland. This gland is called liver. Okay, so what is liver? Liver is the reddish brown gland. It's a gland which will secrete a chemical substance called bile juice. Okay, it is reddish brown gland. It is the largest gland present in our body. It is the largest gland and it produces bile juice. Remember children, this liver is the largest gland. It is reddish brown in color and it produces the digestive enzyme called bile juice. Okay, so bile juice is produced by the liver and it will be stored in this structure. What is the structure? It is called gallbladder. Okay, it will be stored in the structure and this will be brought by this duct here. See, it will be brought by this duct. Okay, and it will be opening into the small intestine. It will open into the small intestine. And just below the stomach, there is one more gland is present. Just below the stomach, a cream colored gland is present. This cream colored gland, we call it pancreas. Even it will be secreting certain digestive juices. That digestive juices will be secreted inside the small intestine. So what is pancreas? Pancreas is a cream colored gland, okay, which is found just below the stomach. Okay, even it will produces many juices, pancreatic juices. Okay, this pancreatic juices will also help in digestion of carbohydrate, proteins and fat. So let us see now the liver. Liver is the largest gland which is present in the abdomen towards the right side. Towards the right side we have the liver. Okay, and this is the largest gland which will produce the bile juice. Bile juice will help in digestion of fat. It will help in digestion of fat. Whereas pancreas is a cream colored gland which is present just below the stomach. It will produce various juices, that is pancreatic juices, which will help in digestion of carbohydrates, fats and proteins. Okay. Now you know that all the juices are entering the small intestine, right? The small intestine. So what is the small intestine? Small intestine is a long tubular structure which is around 7.5 meters long. It is 7.5 meters long. Okay, so it's a long, highly coiled structure. It is, you can see it is highly coiled. So completely it gets coiled. Okay, so I will show here. So here, you know, the large intestine is there, right? Okay, so it just goes behind the large intestine, and as it is 7 meters long, it gets highly coiled. Okay, it will get nicely coiled. Okay, get compactly arranged. Okay, so this is our small intestine. In the small intestine, the food is completely digested because it would have digested partly in the mouth, and then in the stomach, and with the help of the digestive juices secreted by the liver, pancreas, as well as small intestine. In the small intestine, the walls of the small intestine will produce intestinal juices which will help in digestion of the food. Now, in the small intestine, the digestion is completed. Digestion gets completed in the small intestine. That means whatever carbohydrate you have taken, it will be converted into glucose. Okay, and whatever proteins we have taken, it would have converted into amino acid, and whatever fats we have taken, it gets converted into fatty acids and glycerol. Once the food is converted like this, then we say the digestion process is completed. That means the complex food has been converted into simple form. So where the digestion is completed in the small intestine. All the carbohydrates gets converted into glucose. All the proteins will be converted into amino acid, and the fats will be converted into fatty acid and glycerol. So which is the simplest form of all this food? Glucose, amino acid, fatty acids and glycerol. Now digestion is over. What is the next step? Next step is absorption. So where the food, digested food is absorbed. Now the digestion is over. The digested food should be sent to each and every cells in our body. Each and every part of our body should get the digested food. So how it is sent? So in the small intestine. There are some finger-like projections present. Finger-like structures or projections. Finger-like projections are present. These finger-like projections or the structures are called villi. Okay, in the small intestine we find thousands of finger-like structures which are present on the surface of the small intestine. Okay, lining the small intestine we find this finger-like structure. See, if I just imagine if this is a section of small intestine. So here we'll find numerous thousands of finger-like structures like this. Inside you find numerous finger-like structures. These finger-like structures are called villi. Villi is plural. Villi is plural form. Villus is singular. Okay. So we find numerous such structure. So what is the function of this structure? These villi will help in absorption of digested food. Okay, the villi will be surrounded by the blood vessels, minute blood vessels, which we call it capillaries. So the villi will be surrounded with these capillaries. So the villi will absorb the digested food. It will absorb the digested food. Then from the villi, the food will be absorbed by the blood vessels and it will be sent to different parts of our body. So villi are the finger-like structures which are present in the small intestine, which will help in the absorption of digested food. Then the food is sent to different parts of our body, various cells. Parts means the organs. Organs are made up of what? Tissue. Tissues are made up of what? Cells. So each and every cell will be getting this food. Once the food enters into the body, it will be used for utilize. What is next one after absorption? Next one is assimilation. The absorbed food will be utilized to make different kinds of proteins. Then in the cell, the glucose. I told you carbohydrates, right? The carbohydrates after entering the cell. What will happen? The carbohydrates will be broken down. The carbohydrate will be broken down. That is, the carbohydrate will be converted into glucose. The carbohydrate is converted into glucose and the glucose is absorbed by the villi. The villi will, from the villi, the blood vessels will absorb the glucose and it will be sent to different cells. Once when it enters the cell, okay, the glucose in the presence of oxygen will be broken down. It will be broken down. Then we get the energy. That's how we get the energy. So that's why we convert this complex food into simple soluble form so that it will enter inside the cell. Only when it enters inside the cell only we will get energy. That is, in case of carbohydrate, it will be converted into glucose. Where it gets converted into glucose? In the small intestine. From the small intestine, the intestine has small structures called villi. The villi will absorb the food and later it will be absorbed by the blood vessel. The blood vessel will be present closer to the surrounding the villi. Okay, so it will absorb the food and it will be sent to each and every cell. Once the glucose enters into the cell, the glucose will be broken down in the presence of oxygen. That is when we get the energy. So that is what we say utilizing or assimilation. So I hope now you understood ingestion, digestion, absorption and assimilation. So what is next one? Next we'll go to, we finish with small intestine. So what is next one? Next is large intestine. Next is large intestine. Large intestine is around 1.5 meters in long and it is wider compared to the small intestine. It is wider, okay, and it is 1.5 meters in long. So what is the function of large intestine? Large intestine, it absorbs water and salts. It helps in absorption of water and salt. From where? From what? From the undigested and unabsorbed food. Undigested and unabsorbed food. Okay, so I told you there are some parts in our food which cannot be digested. So that forms the undigested food. So the undigested food here, the undigested food will be given to the, sent to the large intestine. See, I'll just draw and show you here. So you have the large intestine which is large in size, which is wider. This is our large intestine. Okay. So this is the small intestine. In the small intestine, the food will be digested and it will be absorbed, right? And the food, there are some parts which cannot be digested. That undigested food will be sent to the large intestine. Okay. In the large intestine, undigested food and unabsorbed food, from that it will absorb the water, mineral salt, and it will form the fecal matter. It forms the fecal matter. Okay. That matter will be stored in a pouch-like structure. It will be stored in a pouch-like structure. What is this pouch-like structure called? It is called rectum. It is called rectum. Okay. This undigested food will be stored in the rectum. Then it will be thrown out. It will be thrown out through the opening called anus. Okay. This process is called egestion. This process is called what? Egestion. So with that we have completed the 5 steps in nutrition: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. Now we understood what happens in our alimentary canal and what are the functions of our digestive gland. One more thing, here there is one structure. Here you can see this structure. Here what is present in the beginning of the large intestine, we call this appendix. Sometimes the appendix will get infected and it leads to severe abdominal pain. Okay, that is called appendicitis, right? So wherein they have to remove the appendix. Okay, so that is appendix. So now I hope you have understood what is the alimentary canal, what is the functions of the digestive gland. So the mouth leads to the buccal cavity. So what happens in the buccal cavity we understood. So digestion begins right from the mouth, and esophagus is a long pipe, it's a food pipe where the food is pushed through the peristalsis movement or alternate contraction and relaxation movement. Nothing happens to the food, that is no digestion takes place in the food pipe or esophagus, and it will reach this part, that is the stomach, which is of J shape, okay, and here it secretes the mucus and digestive juices and hydrochloric acid. What's the function of hydrochloric acid? It destroys the germs, and here the proteins gets digested, then it is sent to the first part of the small intestine, what we call it duodenum, right? The duodenum will receive the bile juice from the liver and the pancreatic juices from the pancreas. I hope you know what is pancreas. Then the complete digestion takes place in small intestine. All the complex food will be converted into simple soluble form in the small intestine, and the small intestine have finger-like structure called villi, which will help in absorption. Okay, that is the third step in nutrition, absorption. Then the absorbed food is taken by the blood vessel to different parts of the cell. There the cells will absorb the digested food and it will utilize for various functions, that is called assimilation. Then the undigested and unabsorbed food will be sent to the large intestine. The large intestine will absorb the water and mineral salt from the undigested food, and it will be throwing out the waste through the anus, that is called egestion. With that we have completed the lesson nutrition in animals.